Well, welcome. We're continuing these orientation videos, and this orientation video will be looking at Pathwright and learning experiences. And so, if you recall, Pathwright is part of the LMS, the Learning Management System, and it will provide all these things called learning experiences, which is the content side of what you will actually be going through in your journey of discipleship. And so, I want to introduce you to both Pathwright and to the learning experiences. And so, to do that, I'm going to go ahead and put Pathwright actually up on the screen so you can see it. And now you can begin to see that here is Pathwright. Pathwright is it's the learning management system, and you have all the various learning experiences that you will be going through the program. So for example, the very first one, if you're in the MA program that you'll do, is making a life map and connecting that to your identity in Christ. And so that is the learning experience that you'll go through. If you click on this, it will then take you inside and you'll begin to see how that learning experience is laid out. And so you're going to have an introduction to the project. That is always the first box, is just to orient you to say, this is what it's about and this is what you're responsible for and what you can expect. And then it's going to move into the actual content side of it, which here's making a life map. And within that, you can see here's the value. And these are the sub things that we want you to really grasp on the content side. And then you'll work that out in your own life, both holistically, right? So your head, content, character, in terms of your ability to integrate and to submit. And then finally through the craft side, which is actually applying it to your life, personal life, or your marriage, or your ministry, or whatever it happens to be. And you can see here's the identity in Christ. And finally, here is making a growth plan. And then at the end, we always have a section on resources, which are going to be populated by you and your team as you go through this process. Now, when you go through any one of these learning experiences, and we're just using a life map as an example, it's really important that you think of the learning experience as the essential things that you need to actually know. And so this is the irreducible minimum. You must be able to understand all of these areas. And so when you are going through the life map, when you're going through the learning experience, if you come across something that you say, wow, I'm going to open this and I'm going to read this, you know what, I already know all this. Then what you want to do is you want to treat it like you would when reading a book. And if you're looking at a chapter and you're like, well, I totally understand this chapter, then you don't need to read that chapter, just flip. The purpose of the learning experience is to help you to begin to know the things you need to know to become competent in the area of the character outcome that we're after. And so it's very important that you actually interact with every aspect of the learning experience. But if you find that, oh, the value of a life map, I totally get that, then you immediately just go to the next part of it and say, okay, well, now we're going to look at the difference between a timeline and a life map. And you could go through this and say, well, man, I really totally get this, and that's okay. Then you would just move on. Now, this will help you to also understand when you look into a learning experience. Here's a little brief explanation. There's always going to be a title to that section, right? The difference between a timeline and a life map. That's just to orient you. And then when you actually go through, you're going to see sometimes there's video. So here's a video that was made in order to help you to understand what's the difference between a timeline and a life map. It gives you an example and then it actually gives you an opportunity to interact with that. It's important that you interact with that, but your mentors may never see that interaction, and that's okay. This is for you in your journey of learning about this element of the learning experience. Okay, and then it will tell you what you're going to do next. And so the purpose of the learning experience is to really help you to grasp the information that you need that will lead to later transformation. The expectation here, I'm going to stop my sharing. The expectation is when you do have a learning experience, the entire cohort, every member of that cohort will actually go through that learning experience prior to the meeting as a cohort. That way, when you come together as a cohort, you will use that time very differently. Sometimes there will still be additional teaching, but you can then ask questions. Your academic mentor may have projects that come out of that learning experience. But the main thing that's really different than traditional education is you don't come to receive the lecture. You've already received that outside of class in that sense, right? But when you come together as a learning community, what you're going to begin to do is interact with that in a deeper way, and you'll begin to look at maybe the implications of that, or you'll tie that to a project. Maybe you'll create a doctrinal statement or a model or an assessment tool, and you'll use that. That'll be how you use it in your learning community. And so that gives you a brief orientation of what a learning experience is and its role, how you approach it. Again, it's like a book, so you skip those things you know, but you need to go through every element of it because it is the irreducible minimum of what we desire for you to know to become competent in that area of the character outcome. So thank you.